Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
And we are here with our Mayfair Witches Season 2, Episode 6 reaction and review. Who is down for a trip to Scotland? You can see some wonderful events. Yeah, see, look how nice and pretty that is. Let's forget about Rowan being locked in a basement at the end of the episode. Everything else is fine.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Rowan. I know she's kind of stuck because she's out there with a bunch of people she can't trust, but she took a chance and it didn't pan out. What else is she going to do at this point?
Listen, Rowan, no matter what decision you make, it almost always seems to be the wrong one. I'm not going to sit here and be wagging my finger at you time and time again because you do have to have someone to believe in. I get that. You've also been burned a lot. If I was in your situation already, I would probably be a little bit more suspicious of anyone, including the, oh, you're not like your dad sort of person where you're taking a pretty big leap there.
Yeah, you are taking a huge leap that you've got someone in Hamish who is going to turn on his father, Ian, who is extremely powerful, has Lasher there, ready for this wedding, and Hamish is all of a sudden going to be like, okay, I'll trust you, new person here that's less powerful than my dad, Lasher, and the bride. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but she's really up against it because her only other allies here are Cortland, who no, and then Moira, who is missing, and Lark, who is trying to be as honest as possible, is like, we got to get out of here. There are masks that are made with actual people. And she's just like, nah, that can't be a thing. Everything else that's happening, that's a thing, but not that. That's a bridge too far.
Lark is the perfect normal guy within this episode. Like, I think every show like this does benefit from having one person who's being the voice of reason. Lark is the guy in the horror movie now that's like, oh, when the person comes into the house with the axe, you shouldn't go upstairs. You should actually go out the back door and try to run to safety.
Yeah, he is. And he's telling her the truth. It's just like, let's get out of here. Things are bad. This is bad. I'm really surprised that Rowan wouldn't have at least taken a look at that with everything that she knows and everything that she has seen. How are these masks the bridge too far for her that she wouldn't take a minute to just be like, you know what? That might be a problem.
We're going to get into that in what I think is a pretty mixed bag of an episode. It's cool.
Oh my goodness.
As cool as the setting was. But before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We still have more to come here for Mayfair Witches. We don't want you to miss any of that, of course. And down the road, the Talamasca spinoff is still happening. Interview with the Vampire is coming up. We are your one-stop shop for all Anne Rice TV adaptation. So hit that subscribe button, and we don't want you to miss it.
Okay, let's talk about Lasher and this milk drinking. Whoever wrote this, I have beef. My beef hat is on.
Right,
you just need to be sent straight to jail for this. It's so bad. And I really enjoy this show. I've enjoyed season 2 even more than season 1. We just came off of what I think is the best episode of the whole series. And then you've got this milkmaid who's gonna be his bride, offering him fresh squeezed milk, and he's just like, blah, blah, blah. This needs to stop. It's so bad. You can't have this demon who's supposed to be, seducing people, and like everybody wants a piece of him, and he's acting like this. The writers needed to pick a lane with him. Either they're going to make him a milk drinking joke, or they're going to make him, somebody who's, able to seduce people and really have power over the witches. Like there has to be one or the other, because right now he has only been coming across as a joke this season. For me, the worst part of the show right now, which is unfortunate because he's a really important part of this show.
Yeah, they've basically said now that he is the last of his kind in a way, that he is bringing along the Taltos, who we seem to have a slight better understanding of coming out of this episode. So yeah, he's critically important. And, it's very well possible. I mean, we have set this up all season long. We've not read the books. It's possible that the milk drinking thing is a big part of the books and they felt like they had to be faithful to that. But
Oh my God, I audibly laughed when he
well,
drank that. It was so bad.
here's the big but with a lot of this, right? It's that you can try to be faithful to the books, and I think a lot of people would advocate for that. But I think at the same time, you have to sort of find a way to bridge the gap between the books and television. But then also, you have to find a way, and this kind of goes into your pick a lane discussion. You have to
Yeah.
understand how you want to characterize somebody like Lasher. Like to me, at this point, I just want to put Mads Mikkelsen in that role and sort of see a little bit what he can do, because I feel like, I saw him alongside Hugh Dancy. I know how seductive that man can be. It just feels like there's something off about the characterization of this Lasher where he doesn't feel serious enough or brooding enough or intense enough or charming enough. It's just, there's just something that's not there.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's either been miscast or if it's just the writing, because the writing is definitely a problem for him, or
Mhm.
if it's a mix of both lanes. That if they had gotten somebody else in there, like a James Spader
Yeah.
who has, charisma for years, who has chemistry with a floor lamp, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like, if you put someone like him in there, is he going to be able to make this milk drinking kind of feel a little more normal or less haha ridiculous? It just doesn't work. I think the milk drinking is ruining his character, just ruining it.
I just think that this storyline in this episode, it's the most exciting when we're actually finding out more about the family and kind of
Yeah.
understanding more about, okay, here's Ian. Here's what Ian is after. Here's how Ian wants to use Lasher. I think
Yeah.
kind of understanding that part of the universe and seeing how these Mayfairs operate and sort of seeing Rowan once again in this position of being a fish out of water. It's like that's what the show was pretty good at
Mhm.
this point. I think there's kind of a mythology limit to at least this particular adaptation, where if you're going too crazy and trying to explain too much about Lasher or the milk drinking or even like their exact nature of the Taltos, which they've given us some of, but it's still a little bit vague. It feels like this show doesn't know how to process going past a certain level of weirdness. So with that in mind, kind of just stay within the weirdness pocket here.
Yeah, I mean, Emileth as well is this new character that
Yeah.
we don't know because we haven't read the books, who's like Lasher's mate, has been waiting for him for
Yeah.
500 years. It's like, okay, is this then sort of a female version of Lasher
Yeah.
and is out here maybe helping the men? Question mark? I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that. It kind of feels like they think basically that if you bring these two together, great things are going to happen.
Yeah, she feels so far correctly cast, if that's what she is supposed to be, sort of this seductress. That
Mhm.
even her riding the cow, I was like, she came in all mysterious
Yeah.
and veiled. She kind of reminded me of Oslog over on Vikings,
Mhm.
when we had Ragnar see her for the first time and she comes out and she's all like mysterious and beautiful and
Yeah.
just charming, and you just feel drawn to her. I felt that way when I saw her come in, and she's riding a cow. So that could have come across kind of hokey,
Yeah.
but it didn't.
The visual characterization of her, and really all of the visuals in Scotland in general, like I think that's what this episode did really well, is that
Yes.
I know they actually filmed mostly in Ireland, but still they really
So pretty.
did a good job of sort of making this look different, feel different than when we were in New Orleans, whether it is Emileth, whether it is seeing the family together, the celebrations that are going on. It really did feel like we were watching these people kind of descend into this other world. And I enjoyed that a great deal, just as I did kind of understanding the differences between Rowan using her powers in New Orleans and trying to use them here, where they can kind of all be directed in different ways and they don't really work properly.
Okay, we're going to get back to Scotland, but since you brought up New Orleans, let's
Yeah.
talk about Cyprian. We had a Daniel Malloy mention that's
Yeah.
like, ever since his book came out, it's chaos with the Talamasca. I was like, oh, that's cool to have kind of a mention of that.
Yeah.
It is how they got affected by what he put out there in that book. Because that was a very big tell-all book,
Yeah.
right? Anyone that actually believed it, it's going to create chaos. But it was nice to see Cyprian's brought in and he's met with sort of the head of Amsterdam. It's just like, hey, everything that happened, forgiven, because we need your talents to be able to help us with this other thing. It was nice to see Cyprian stand up and be like, cool, I'll help you, but I'm going to be the head of the New Orleans division. And I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
so if Albrecht is gone and Cyprian's moving in as possibly the head of that division, is he going to end up basically being the lead of the new Talamasca show?
I wouldn't be upset.
No, I wouldn't either. I really like him.
No, I like Sip a lot as a character, and I mean, it did already feel like watching this episode that he was on a different show than everybody else, if I'm being honest. It
Yeah.
just, this show, once again, it's trying to take on so many different things, and I think there's not that much cohesion right now, and I think that's probably what's frustrating to a lot of people. I mean, we've seen a lot of comments. I mean, the reviews for this season, both critics and fans alike, are pretty polarizing, and
Mhm.
I think it's a
Yeah.
better show than what a lot of at least TV critics say that it is, but at the same time, it's inconsistent. And I was happy to see Sip have some airtime, but it also did like completely change the pacing of this episode.
Yeah, the Talamasca doesn't have anything to do right now.
Yeah.
Like, they are their own show. They need their own show. I really like Sip. I like the Talamasca a lot, and I am looking forward to that show.
Yeah.
But if I don't see them for the next few episodes for the rest of the season, I'm going to be fine with it because it is a completely different show. I know that they're looking for Albrecht and they'll end up finding out that he's dead and
Yeah.
they'll have to move on to some other things. But if he's not out there with them right now, then like they just don't need to be around.
Yeah, and I think there's a big question of like, okay, well, how long are the Mayfairs going to be in Scotland? And it's just like, for now, it doesn't seem like they're really rushing through everything. It seems like there's still plenty to do. I mean, heck, given what happened to Rowan at the end of this episode, we at least have probably one more full episode out there.
Okay, let's just talk about Moira because
Yeah.
she is missing.
Yes.
Like they all got kind of separated at this festival.
Yeah.
She ends up in Julian's bar and all the same pictures are up, the same setup, the darts, all of it. And she heard Taltos will end your suffering. And she saw this guy in a red hood, followed him, ended up in this bar, poof, gone, right? So we are missing this really important part now where Rowan is really kind of just stuck. She's not close enough to Lasher to be able to have powers. Cortland is the person that's with her. He is not only untrustworthy, but I think he's kind of in a weird spot just family wise. So Moira really is the person she needed, the mind reader to be there. And she's missing kind of thing, right? So let's talk about Cortland.
Yeah.
This episode was really tough for him, and I think he's on a journey. And while I will never forgive him for what he did to Deidre, it's an unforgivable act, and he can't be redeemed. It was interesting to see him sort of really struggling here with family because he has always felt like the outcast. Julian did him dirty, erased his memory, favored his other son. Ian is playing this up to be like, oh, you thought I was favored? No, you're favored. We should work together. He's trying to keep us apart, brothers forever. And it's kind of like, well, where were you then? Like, you're a plane right away. If it was really brothers forever, like, would you not have shown up at some point? But I think because Cortland had such a bad relationship with his dad and just this like jealousy and feeling of being left behind where his father was favoring Ian, that now it's like, well, my only real family, it feels like, is Ian, my brother. So who am I going to trust at this point? Rowan, who's kind of done me dirty for a good reason, or Ian, who maybe is telling the truth but probably not.
Cortland is just at this point easy to manipulate in that way because I think he's desperately seeking something. And I think he's seeking that feeling, as a lot of us are, of wanting to be loved, wanting to have family. And I think it's something that Ian as a character can easily take advantage of. And, it's too early to tell exactly what the end game is going to be here with all of this. I mean, I feel like it's pretty simple to just say Julian is off somewhere in his own little world pulling a lot of strings, and that he's ultimately the person who may be playing everybody. But I just think for now, we're in this spot where Cortland is going to potentially be played by Ian, and then of course that's probably going to end up hurting Rowan in some sort of way, because these characters can never be on the same page. That is a requirement for Mayfair Witches. You can just not have anybody to trust that closely.
Yeah, because it's interesting that there's a Victrola up there. So
Yeah.
obviously, to me, Ian is seeing his dad and talking to his dad. So his dad has got to be controlling Ian to be able to control Cortland out there.
Yeah.
Feels like a lot of people have had access to Julian, the people that he really cares about, but not Cortland.
Yeah, this is where I'll put on my tinfoil hat here
Okay,
for a
tinfoil
moment.
hat.
This is why I think Moira's probably in her own little Victrola-verse at this point, if you will, or doing something where she's being effectively immobilized. Because if Julian is an effective string puller here and he wants to make sure that his plans are successful, you know who he does not want running around Scotland? Somebody who can read minds. And I just think that's a pretty big problem for him. You know, her and Rowan are starting to actually be a little bit on the same page. It's very annoying for me as someone who's watching the show and felt like Moira was the best addition to the show this season, somebody I liked, somebody who seemed to be thinking a lot more logically than Rowan, which for me was very nice because Rowan makes me angry every other week. And so, yeah, if you are a quote unquote big bad, you're probably going to want to stop anybody who could even theoretically get in your way.
Moira has been such a delight this season.
Yeah.
I loved Julian. Julian has been great this season.
Yeah.
Ian is a really good addition so far as well. He's pretty menacing. That whole family is such a big question mark on what's going on, and putting this wedding together for Lasher. Like, how is this all going to work out? I know Rowan is trying her best to kind of be like, hey, all I need is a vial of his blood and then I'm out of here. I don't care about the wedding. I don't care if he's getting married to somebody. I don't care what you guys are doing out here. I just need to get my sister out of this thrall and I'll be on my way. And I think in a lot of ways that is true, that she just wants to undo what she did.
Yeah.
And she's not necessarily here to stop the wedding. She didn't even know about it until she showed up here.
Yeah, I don't think Rowan's really thinking with that much of the bigger picture right now.
No.
Like, she's never seemingly fashioned herself as a chosen one for the family. Like, she wanted to use her powers in order to help people. All she's really done so far is the opposite in putting her family into a thrall. And she's just trying, I think, to undo what she's done. And then once she does that, she'll probably go from there. Rowan is not sitting at home, and you know how a lot of people have like those dream boards or things where they're writing down all their little goals. I don't think Rowan has that. I think Rowan is just waking up and being like, I'm just going to try to do this today.
I'm a Pisces. We all about our dream boards. Pisces season coming up to all my Pisces out there. But no, she's probably not doing that.
No, I just don't see it.
I think she's just mostly like she's pressed for time. Her house is falling down. Daphne's in there. JoJo's in there. I think at this point, she's like, I can deal with this wedding later. I don't even know what it's about. It's not important. And because she has some knowledge, and Ian was kind of surprised to learn how much she knew, it's not enough that it's more important than her sister.
I think the biggest takeaway I have coming out of this episode is just that I feel like I can properly assess what I think about this show right now. And I've been kind of struggling with this for weeks. And maybe this is a term I'll use in the future, but I feel like Mayfair Witches is operating as a little bit of a 10-man show right now. It doesn't have a heart. It's moving around. It's doing a lot of interesting things.
Oh my God, why didn't you tell me to put my heart hat on?
I'm enjoying it. That's just sort of the thing. Like, it's kind of like I do enjoy the Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz too. Like, I like him, but there's clearly something missing about the Tin Man, and there's something missing with this show. And I think to me it really is that it doesn't feel like it has that heart, where with Interview with the Vampire, if something happened to if something happened to Lestat, if something happened to Louis, I would be storming out into the street, and I don't have any pitchforks, so I would just be carrying around like some silverware forks in anger because I would be so upset. And it's like, for Mayfair Witches right now,
that show is all heart.
Yeah, that's all heart. You could do pretty much anything to any character right now, and I would be like, okay, all right, I'll see where this goes. Maybe I'll have some sort of reaction to it. It's just, if you're doing a show like this, you need to find a way to get us that invested in people so that you really can pull visceral emotion or anger or some sort of feeling out of it. And it's just very surface level right now. It's not deep enough where I'm not really descending to the level that I at least need to.
Albrecht got killed and nobody cared. It
Yeah.
was so weird to see that happen, and that included me. I mean, there are very few characters that I'm really, really invested in the show. If they
Yeah.
kill off Sip, I am going to be extremely upset. And I don't think that they're going to. It feels like
Yeah.
he's probably going to be the head of the New Orleans division and the star of the next show. That's what I feel like is happening. If they kill him, we're going to have a problem. If they kill JoJo, we're going to have a problem. If they kill anybody else, I don't know that I'm going to have a problem.
And that in itself is a problem. And that's
I
something
agree, yeah.
the show does need to sort of figure out, is how to get us invested more in these people. And I think one of the biggest issues is relatability. And I think because Rowan continues to make decisions that make all of us angry, it's not like all of us are sitting out here being perfect. We all have to take a second, take a deep breath, and realize we've all made mistakes. But the problem with Rowan is she makes all the mistakes. Like, it doesn't feel like she's ever doing something that I think a lot of us really understand. And I think that inconsistency kind of is keeping Mayfair Witches from what it could be, which is a top tier supernatural show, where
Mhm.
right now it's fun, it's enjoyable. I like watching the show, but it's just also, if you're comparing it to Interview with the Vampire, you're basically looking at one extreme and then the other.
Rowan, the patron saint of bad decisions, as you have said in other videos. It is very hard to get behind her because she is supposed to be
Yeah.
someone who is highly intelligent. She is a
Yes.
doctor. She is someone who thinks logically. And even in this world where everything is supernatural and she's just learning about this stuff and she is trying to figure it out, I understand that there would be some uncertainty with that because
Yes.
she is new to this supernatural world. But she is also someone that is highly intelligent and can think logically about things. And in these types of situations, there should be more of that happening. Like the example of Lark and him
Yeah.
being like, this is what I saw. You have a human friend here, love
Yes.
interest, who has told you what he has seen.
Yeah.
Just straight up, this is what I've seen. I don't know why she's not believing it. She has seen weirder than
Yeah.
this. So how is this something then that she doesn't want to at least take a look at as a problem?
And also, you can clearly trust Lark, because Lark is willing to do a lot for you. We already went into this in the last episode. You tell Lark all your secrets and he's like, cool. He's willing to go along for the ride in a lot of ways that I feel like the average person would not. So for him to be like, we've got a problem, that should be the reddest of red flags. That should be you just like wrapping yourself in a red flag and realizing there's a problem here.
I'm wondering as well if Hamish was half truthing everything, if he was like, yeah, there
Mhm.
are tunnels underneath, you have to go into the basement, or if that is just a room, because it looked like there was possibly still tunnels that could get her out of there, but maybe not. I mean, I'm very curious to see that in the next episode, where is he just locking her in there to keep her away, or is he locking her in there to be like, nothing to see here, I've told her about it, she's in the tunnels, she just has to make it to the other side, but this door has to be locked because if somebody comes down here and it's wide open, they're going to know there's a problem. It's kind of like a, where is Hamish really standing on this? Did he really lock her in there, or did he shut the door and lock it because it has to look like it's locked?
I want to think that Hamish is playing all sides, so he always comes out on top. I kind of feel like he is somebody who is probably having some issues with the rest of his family. I think the half-truth idea you're bringing up here is the most interesting, where we go into the next episode and being like, yeah, he did lock it, but it's not all exactly what it seems.
Right.
That he might want to help Rowan to a certain extent, but he can't do anything that's compromising himself. Because if something goes wrong with Rowan and, reputation wise, it's probably going to. He doesn't want to be stuck out on an island. He doesn't want anything to happen to her. Like, why is he going to bend over backwards for somebody who he has barely ever known?
Exactly.
But that is where we are coming out of Mayfair, which is season 2, episode 6. We'll see where the show goes moving forward, but hit that subscribe button now so you guys don't miss anything more. And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. We have a link in the description below. Over there, we're covering exclusively The Pit on Max, as well as Prime Target on Apple TV+. Thank you guys so much for your support. We'll see you here next time.